I'm really happy to welcome newly elected Congressman Madison Cawthorn to the podcast. One of my criteria for someone who's making a difference is that they are being attacked. If you're not being attacked, it means that the left does not find you threatening. And you, Madison Cawthorn, are being attacked, which I take to be a part of. You should put that on your resume because they're going after you because they're a little scared of you. And they're a little scared of you because you represent, I think, to them, the spirit of the MAGA movement. So let's begin, if I may, by having you say just a little about yourself. Say a little bit about why you decided to run for Congress and what to you is the MAGA spirit.
Well, Mr. D'Souza, it's an honor to be on your show. I have looked up to you as kind of a mentor in the political sphere. I've listened to you for many years, so it's a real dream come true to be on the show. But a little bit about myself. I decided to get involved in politics because, I was really tired of having these tasseled loafers, pressed slacks, wearing kind of politicians that go up to Washington, D.C. and, they do not have the back of Donald Trump. They did not have the back of the American people. And they were unwilling to take the fight to the Democrats. And then also I just got married, so very excited about that. But after my now wife and I got engaged, we are obviously having those normal conversations of, when do you want to have kids? How many do you want to have? And after that night, when I was kind of pondering our conversation, I thought to myself, wow, what is it going to be like to raise a kid in this kind of environment? And that really gave me the impetus to want to get involved to actually make a difference before that comes.
It seems like Trump has been a key figure in your political mobilization. Let me turn to a couple of things that Trump talked about at his CPAC speech, because I think we can almost speak about Trump in a sense, not redefining himself, but laying out his path forward. I for one, was very encouraged when Trump said, and I'm now quoting him, we're not starting a new party. Trump basically goes, we're not interested in that. Trump looks like he's going to be focusing his efforts on, you may say, MAGAizing the GOP. Do you think that was the right move? And do you think he can actually do that?
Oh, I absolutely do. A dear friend of mine, Lauren Boebert, just had a great quote today where she said, it's about time that you get on board with America First doctrine or you're going to get ran over. Because, at this point, so many people in the United States of America have seen, and really I gave all credit to Donald Trump on this. He really took the collar off of a young conservative like me to want to go out and get in the fight of, hey, we need to start supporting Americans first and stop with all these social issues and worrying about, different countries overseas. While we still have homeless people on the sides of our streets, while we're in terrible trade deals, when we're funding almost all of NATO, we're going to re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement. With the Iran nuclear deal, there's so many terrible directions that our country's being taken in that don't actually help the people that we claim to represent.
Now, as you know, the Republican Party, we talk a lot about the so-called, the rhinos or maybe the renegade never-Trumpers who at this point aren't really Republicans at all. But there is I would almost call it more of an emotional division rather than a philosophical division between traditional Republicans and sort of Trumpsters. And you can really see it. The traditional Republican is sort of the soccer mom in the suburbs, or it's the business guy, who's kind of a go-along, get-along guy in his community, and he doesn't like high taxes, and so he votes for the Republican Party. But on the other hand, he's a little unnerved by Trump. So the question I want to raise is, how do we keep a Republican big tent that doesn't push people? We're getting new people in, but we don't want to push people out. How do we include traditional Republicans and make them feel more relaxed about voting for somebody like Trump?
Well, I think the thing that we really all loved about President Donald Trump when he was started his race in 2015 and then during his presidency's tenure, when he was just really starting to message what we were all thinking, what we all felt in very plain, simple terms. I think the biggest problem with the Republican Party is that we cannot really carry a message. And so what I think people need to realize is to wake up to the great threat that we're all facing in this world. And that's the threat of government control. Those who sacrifice liberty just to gain a little safety, they deserve neither, as the great quote goes. And I genuinely believe that we need to allow people in the Republican Party to realize, hey, this person might not make me feel so happy when I see his tweets, but he's going to make sure that I have the right to parent my child in the way they want to do. He's going to make sure that I have the right to defend myself with the Second Amendment. He's going to make sure that I have the right to express my own ideas and thoughts in this new town square of social media, or to go to church whenever I choose, or to actually have a job. And so, I genuinely believe the way we create a more connected party is by the party really messaging the threat that we are all indeed facing.
Is it part of our challenge to convince people that, if you look up to previous Republican presidents like Reagan or even further back, that was a different era, that we're now you could almost say we're now fighting for our basic liberties, and they're not being taken away by Iranians or Chinese, at least not directly. They're being taken away by Google, and they're being taken away by this kind of, you may almost call it insidious alliance of the left in government and the left in the influential cultural and corporate sector. So in other words, we need a leader with fighting spirit, because we're in a fight, quite literally, for our lives and liberty.
Absolutely. Dinesh, at the very beginning of this, you were talking about how one of your criteria to know if somebody's making a difference is if they're being attacked. Winston Churchill had that great quote saying that, if you have enemies, that's good. It means you stood for something in your life. And although most people do not like negative press being involved with their politicians, they want somebody who's just going to sit there and go along to get along. But unfortunately, when people come and challenge the system, when people come and try and go against this establishment inside of Washington, D.C., and really the mainstream media, and I hate even calling them the mainstream media because they're not mainstream whatsoever. The media really focuses on the 20% of issues that genuinely divide Americans, and then they profit off of that division. And so the reason why I'm willing to fight so hard and go into this really uncomfortable form of combat that we're in the political sphere is because, I do not want our liberties to be taken away. And so I think that's something that we can kind of go back to our districts with, is saying, hey, I know you might not like President Trump, but you need a fighting spirit right now. And although these things don't make you feel good, it actually does good. PragerU is a great video that don't vote for what feels good, vote for what actually does good.
I mean, you say that the mainstream media aren't, quote, mainstream. I don't even think that they're media in the traditional sense, because when the founders, for example, established the First Amendment to protect free speech in the press, I think they thought of a group of people who were outside of government, who were captive to neither party, who would apply an independent critical lens on government. And if you think about our media, they don't do that. They're partisans. They're in with the other side. They're part of the enemy camp, you might say. They're almost propagandists for them. Isn't it critical for Republicans and conservatives to build channels of information so we can get our side out without having to go through the refracting filter of the mainstream media?
Oh, you're absolutely correct, Dinesh. I talk to my communications director oftentimes. Oh, hey, who we're doing this interview with? Is that a friendly outlet? And it's so sad that we have to even have unfriendly and friendly outlets. They should just be reporting the facts blatantly so people can make their own decisions. But like you said, that is not the world that we live in. And Democrats have really forced us to have to be activists in every single aspect of our lives because they have taken politics and applied it to absolutely everything. We have to now do the same. And so I think that, people like yourself, and I'm sure this is why you got into the movie making scene, is because you needed to combat what was coming out of Hollywood. It's the reason I got involved with politics. There's several other, Charlie Kirk started Turning Point USA because we realized that, hey, if the Republicans have, for whatever reason, over the past 3 or so decades, have just not wanted to build up the actual infrastructure needed to compete with the Democrat machine right now. And now we're starting to suffer the effects of them really starting to outpace us with that infrastructure. And so I absolutely agree with you. We do need to build out our own channels.
Madison Cawthorn, thanks for joining the podcast. And if I can leave you with a piece of advice, it is don't just be thick-skinned. Learn to enjoy being attacked. It's actually fun, and it's a measure of the fact that you're actually doing a lot of good. So keep it up. All the best.
Dinesh, it's so encouraging, brother. And hey, thank you for being a guiding light to me for all these years. Have a good day, brother.